So I kind of want to pivot a little bit, but it is kind of related to the scene of controllers, right? So when I was at Battle BC7, I met was it
Anthony, Rectangle Corner.
Rectangle Corner. That's
He makes
right.
my controller.
Yes, and he had some gnarly designs, 3D printed, some like experimental designs, and some very very practical.
Yep.
And this kind of topic of controllers is it's pretty heated because there's
Very
like
heated right now.
Yeah, there's like a legality issues, and then there's kind of like, I mean, it's the controller that you use is the one where it's like there's like a GameCube controller on
That's
your
called
left
the
hand.
Cubstraption, yep.
Yeah, and then on the right hand it's kind of like arcade buttons. And
I actually switched back off that. I'm back on full leverless, just full buttons again, because that was hurting my hands too much. Like, I play leverless not because it's OP or broken. I play because I can't play on a GameCube controller anymore. Like, I'd actually quit Melee for a while because of exactly that. But now I can play with however long I want on a full leverless.
Okay.
It's called a box style controller, a rectangle. We call them rectangles.
So
in the Melee scene, at least right now, there's a lot of pushback on rectangles. Like, I feel like the problem is, like, these people aren't winning. There's nobody winning tournaments on rectangles. There's no one even really top 8ing on rectangles.
That's true, yeah.
It's just like,
but theoretically, people have an issue with it because I think I think I heard this from one player at least, that when you're on an analog stick, like, because it's analog, if you go from neutral to all the way to one direction,
left to
right, there's distance there,
travel time.
But it's not just a travel time, because you have travel time in arcade sticks, just traditional FGC arcade sticks, but there's inputs in between in the travel time. Right, there's multiple inputs, right? Whereas, like, with a button-style controller for Smash, it's just instantaneous. And so now you're skipping what you would normally have to do on a GameCube controller. And that's kind of where the controversy comes from. Like, you're kind of teleporting the position of the analog stick with these buttons. So how do you feel about that? And what are your thoughts on that?
So as someone who is good at playing on both, like, I think that each of these controllers has a lot of pros and cons. And honestly, as somebody who plays Jigglypuff on a digital controller, not having access to the in-betweens is also a nerf. Like, I wish I had access to the precise minutia drift that I could on a GameCube controller, but I physically cannot, because I can only choose 3 different positions my stick can basically be at using the modifiers. So, like,
there's upside and a downside.
Yeah, each of these controllers has significant trade-offs, and I think the input precision is the thing people complain about the most on these box-style controllers.
They're pretty precise.
They are pretty precise, but the thing is, every top player in Melee uses notches on their left stick to exactly pinpoint what angle they're hitting anyways, right? So, like, whether you're plus minus like 5 degrees on your angle in Melee or whatever it is, like, it's not going to be the game changer anyways. They just play really different. Each of these has significant pros and cons, and as somebody who's played on both, the biggest pro for me, and the reason I play on a box, is because I can. Like, I can't play on a GameCube controller because my hands hurt so much.
There's an ergonomic
It's ergonomics.
Aspect.
Like, I play on it because I'm handicapped on a GameCube controller physically. I cannot play for more than half an hour without my hands starting to feel like absolute garbage, and it will stay like that for a while.
No, I mean, this is, I guess, the late Hax's original design for the
whole
box
reason,
was. I remember he had wrist issues. And that's kind of what inspired him to make that design.
He taught me how to play on a box. Like, he was the guy I was messaging for all my questions on it. Like, I learned to play on a Hax B0XX, right? The OG one. And, like, I think that it is a really important thing for our scene, because so many people in our scene genuinely have hand pains and hand problems, and we're being stubborn against an option that will let people play this game well into the rest of their lives. Like, it's always been surprising to me that people don't complain about leverless the same way in traditional fighting games, because I think that it's just as OP to be able to hit the pinpoint angles and stuff like that. And
there have been controversy. I mean, the hitbox is called the cheat box for a reason, but it's definitely gained acceptance in a way that I think the box style controllers haven't in the Smash community. And I think a big part of that is because Tokido and Daigo,
cool players per se,
the cool players, they're using it. They're using hitboxes, and Kawano has there's when I went to Japan. I went to a Bit Camera, which is basically like a Best Buy of Japan, but like way cooler and better. And they had like an esports section, right? And it was interesting. You have the gaming chair set up, whatever. And they had like a section for fighting games. They had Street Fighter 6. It was like connected online. You could play like online, and I played. And they had a bunch of controllers, and they had a hitbox there. Yep. And I realized, this is has now penetrated into like a mainstream store like Big Camera.
Kitsune, right? Like you have major brands like Razer investing heavily in making these leverless controllers.
Yeah, I think 8-Bit Do made another leverless arcade controller, and so it's definitely it's pretty pervasive. And I think it's now because it's so mainstream, people are like, you can't rail against it anymore, right? It's like once you're railing against it, you're railing against Daigo.
Yeah,
it's just like, well, man, Daigo can't do that, right? Yeah. But like, I guess in the Smash scene, like somebody winning, even top 8ing with a box style controller, has that happened?
There's been
in a
three
major?
people, right? Like Pipsqueak, Zuppy, and Hax are like the 3 people ever who have done anything of significance on these controllers, right? Like, I think that it's really frustrating to me, the amount of pushback and hate on box controllers in the Melee scene. Mm-hmm. I understand there's some things that they can do really, really well. And some people think it's fraudulent, but nobody is winning purely because they're on a box style controller. And like anybody who has tried to learn a box style controller from a GameCube one, you know that it's just as easy to fuck shit up and just as easy to miss input, and there is a strong learning curve. Most players who become good on a box controller are also good on a GameCube controller.
Yeah. I mean that's because the GameCube controller is what you start on, right? So
exactly.
It's not everyone has started on that.
Yeah. Like it gives you some things that you don't have access to on a GameCube controller, but there's trade-offs, as I mentioned, right, that you don't get access to. And I think personally that a notched Cubs traption, the Cubs traption is what I was talking about, which is the left hand is a game controller, right hand is digital style buttons. That's the best possible controller in Melee by far. There's one player who plays on it right now at a top level, right? Spark. So maybe that's the future. But I think the GameCube controller sucks inherently. Like, there's so much bad about the GameCube controller, right? And for so many players, it's just physically way too small.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard, it's I've seen Leffen like cancel tournaments because his controller was acting up, and I know that like famously Armada has to have like it's like 1 in every 30 controllers is just the right amount of messed up for it to work.
So
for
at
him,
some point already though in Melee, like the arms race, like the Pandora's box of like what we can do like became opened, and it's really, really hard to close that Pandora's box. But like from my perspective, we already do so much to modernize this game, and we're trying to keep the game's longevity, that like things and innovations in this direction shouldn't be stifled, right? Like if the box is the best controller theoretically, then okay, everybody's gonna start playing on it, but they're not, right? Like a box player is not inherently better than a GameCube controller player. It's not that unfair of an advantage, right? And I think that if that's what's going to keep the game going for long term, then so be it. And nobody's playing these days at the top level on a traditional, totally vanilla GameCube controller anyway. They've got fobs, we've got custom motherboards, we're running software changes like UCF. I mean, Nintendo, please close your eyes to this one, but like no Melee tournament ever is running vanilla Melee, right? Universal controller fix exists so that every controller gets buffed.
Wow.
So
I imagine they're not fans of
they're not fans of any of this stuff, but so be it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of I love tinkering and I love modding, and I'm definitely into like new tech and technologies. So I'm like, whatever controller, as long as it's not like people are not, like Guile's not walking forward and throwing sonic booms. I'm generally like okay with most of it, but I do understand that it's easy to do certain things that was impossible to do on like a lever.
The biggest annoying parts are like the big things that people complain about on digital style controllers in Melee. One is obviously access to, like, as you said, just instantly being able to go full drift in different directions, like instant left, right, and things like that. But in Melee, that's very rarely going to be what wins you the game, right? Like, how often is that the scenario that actually is the winning decision?
Yeah, that's interesting, because like I can easily point to moments in FGC games where a hitbox or leverless actually did make a difference. And the latest example that comes to my mind is Street Fighter League finals, the team finals this year. I think it was during Capcom Cup 11, but I think Kawano got the final win on against Punk, and Punk was doing dive kicks with Cammy, and Kawano was DPing almost every single one of them. And what I know from playing on a hitbox style controller is that there's an input that is the hitbox guys like
it takes advantage of the neutral SOCD, right?
Well, no, it takes advantage of the fact that they're buttons, really, and it's the fastest DP that you can do, and Kawano was just doing it. Yeah, just getting anti-airing every single time with Punk. And I think Punk was just like, how does this guy DP so quickly, right? Because he's playing classic mode. He's not doing the one button motionless uppercuts. So and it's interesting, it takes advantage of the hitbox, but also the input leniency rules in modern fighting games. So in Street Fighter. Yeah. So but it's TP, traditionally a dragon punch in Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 1 was forward, down, down forward, and any punch button. That was like the input, right? But with input leniency now, what it's gotten to, there have been so many iterations of this. Now it's to the point where you can, the input is, I think it's like any forward input, then any down input, then any forward input.
Right, because it'll approximate it to being a down forward.
Yeah, it'll approximate it, right? So what the input on the fastest DP that you can do on a hitbox is actually like, I think it's like a forward, down, up, forward input, actually, because you hit the jump button with the punch button at about the same time. And that's not the DP motion that we all grew up with, but it's what it is now. And then with a leverless, you take advantage of that. So it's taking advantage of the input leniency and the button-based controller aspect. And you're basically like doing DPs like frames faster than anyone. And in an environment where there's like tons of money on the line in the finals, that makes a big difference. And this, what's funny is, like you said, you're saying like, the box style controllers is not like getting people these wins in the finals, but then like the hitbox style controllers
literally
winning people's stuff, and it's okay, right? So there's definitely, it's an interesting discrepancy, right?
Yeah, and I mentioned with the arms race, right? Like our GameCube controllers, like people are changing them up, and the best player in the world for Melee, or Cody Schwab, he actually is by far the best right now. He continues to win things. He uses bumper jumper, so his Z is jump, and that's a remap that he's done physically, right? Like that's not the default.
That's a mod,
and it opens up a lot, right? It changes a lot towards what you can do, and that's okay, and that's fine. And now a lot of other top players are, and now top players are like, should we change this? Like, do I change this? Do I learn to use one of the triggers to jump? Because it really opens up what you can do for using aerial moves really quickly without having to change your grip to claw. Like when I play on a GameCube controller now, I have to claw on my right hand. Otherwise, I just feel like I can't do my aerials, right? Jumping and pushing the C stick at the same time.
Yeah.
Because normally if you're not clawing, you're using your thumb to hit jump and then use the C stick. But if you have Z, then you're jumping with the trigger, and then you have access to the C stick, right?
Yeah.
So you can do instant full drift aerials and things like that. So our best player is using it now. Is he cheating? Some people say so, but like
it's not as controversial as something like a box controller. And I think there's an interesting theory about this. I don't know, somebody who thinks about this stuff a lot might figure something out. But I think there's something about people have these rules in their heads about like what should be and what shouldn't be in a game. And this is why game balance is so difficult, right? It's like, what can people do? Like, for example, like the big thing right now in Tekken is, all these characters are getting all these moves and
New moves.
and they're calling it, it's like this game is getting too buffed, and people are like mad at my video title that I made. Why buffs are better than nerfs.
Yep.
But
without watching the actual video.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's people are upset by this idea of Tekken 8 getting. It's just the problem is that there needs to be more nerfs, but everyone's just getting buffed.
Everybody's converging on being the best.
Sure, yeah, but then the moment that I were to be like, okay, this game needs more nerfs, let's nerf sidestepping. Then people will be like, no, not that. Don't nerf sidestepping, because they've already nerfed the shit out of sidestepping in modern Tekken games. That's kind of one of the problems of
the defense is just way nerfed.
Yeah, so like let's nerf sidestepping, but that's not what they want nerfed. What they want nerfed is they want a game to be a specific way.
Yep.
Right, and it could be due to the legacy history of Tekken. Having Heihachi do like a Urian style headbutt is really weird and different. And in that similar sense, I imagine somebody's looking at a box style controller compared to a GameCube controller, that looks really foreign and weird.
Yep.
And so whether that one gives the advantage, being able to teleport analog inputs gives you an advantage or not is really not. It's an argument, but it's not really the real reason.
Yes.
It feels like it's not that it gives so much an advantage. It's just that it seems like that is it's crossing some kind of boundary or a line. Whereas like remapping a Z button that's like completely okay.
Yep.
Right. Whether and I don't know, is mapping a Z button, is that something you can't do?
You cannot. You can't change your controls in Melee.
You have to just wire the.
Yeah, they're rewiring
it.
Yeah. You have to go to a modder who's going to rewire it for you.
That's a crazy mod, and generally, I mean, I know some people don't like that, but generally that seems to be better received than something like a box controller.
And even your sidestepping example is actually very relevant to this because like one of the biggest complaints about box style controllers is their access to dash dancing, right? Like dash dancing in Melee is moving left and right, right?
Sure,
and like on a GameCube controller, like it gets tiring and your rhythm and everything is so important. But like on a box, it's so easy. You're literally just going left, right, left, right, left, right, right?
Sure,
and because in Melee we have second input priority, you don't even have to really time your inputs because it's not neutral SOCD.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, we can't have that. So we need neutral SOCD. We need travel time. We need all this stuff. But like, spamming dash dancing isn't winning you games, it's losing you games. Like if you're bad, you're just going to be doing it brainlessly, right? It gives people more access to it, but if you're doing it brainlessly, it makes you worse.
I think when people argue and debate stuff, I think a lot of it is not, I mean, people want to find evidence to support their claims, but it's not necessarily it's not the reason why they feel that way. Because I think there's discrepancy there. I'm the same way. I think everyone's like that to a certain extent. Like you've ever gotten into an argument with somebody and then you just kind of like have some supporting reason for your argument, but it's actually not really it does support it, but it's like that's it's not really hitting at what you feel. So maybe there's a lot of that going on, but
I think my frustration with all this is just like the people who are going to actually be getting hurt by like all these nerfs are just like your random 1 tour, your random 2 tour who plays in a box because it's the way that they've chosen to play the game.
Oh yeah, they get hated on.
They get hated on. They get shat on. I've been called a cheater to my face so many times just for my controller, and it's like, fuck you. Like, and like the implementation and rollout of these nerfs has been really frustrating for me to witness, right? Like people are doing it without warning or without heads up or without enough communication. Like you cannot be expected overnight to relearn how your muscle memory works. And these nerfs really change your muscle memory, going from second input priority to neutral SOCD, adding in the travel time. They added in input fuzzing, which really does make it so every time you push a button, it's not exactly that. It's randomly fuzzed, like 3 degrees plus minus. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like this stuff is dumb. It's not going to, and the worst part is it's not going to fix the problem. People are still going to complain about these things. People are still going to say it's broken. Like,
no, it
doesn't accomplish anything.
The extent that the community will go to try to make this thing work for everyone, I guess this kind of goes back to the thing of like, well, like, do you really listen to the solution of people? There's a problem, but like, is this the solution? And
Yeah, like I'm failing to understand, I guess, what the significance of the problem is here. I feel like it's just complainers, to be honest. Like some dude loses to somebody on a box and suddenly thinks they're better. Like that person is like the people who call boxes cheating. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but I do think there's definitely it's like an alien syndrome or something, or a predator effect. I use that term in one of my videos where it's just kind of like it seems alien, right? And whether it's strong or not, it's not necessarily what people are concerned about. It's worse if it's strong, but just the fact that it's alien kind of makes it feel like that that's kind of ruining the game.
Yep.
And so it's just. Yeah, I mean, it's an
Melee heads are notorious for that, right? We still play on freaking CRTs because, playing on...
Melee people are legacy heads. Yeah. So totally, yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, like, that Pandora's box got opened, and we're, like... I think it's silly for us to try and move backwards. Instead, we need to continue moving forwards on these things, and it's not what's ruining the game or destroying the game. It's just people being mad.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like, even if Street Fighter, like I don't know, if you look at Third Strike, everyone plays on the Samwa.
Yep.
Lever and buttons, they play on the cabinet. And that's not the game where you see tons of people going in with hitbox style controllers. It's more of a modern thing. And even within the same franchise, you see kind of different perceptions. I don't know, is when you look at Smash Ultimate...
Ultimate's a wild, wild west. People play on every sort of controller in Ultimate,
that's so fascinating.
Right?
It's like,
same with Rivals of Ether too, right? Like, any controller goes in those games, right?
Yeah.
People play on the most fucked up controllers in Ultimate, and nobody's complaining, right?
Yeah.
The people who play on hitboxes in Ultimate, because there's zero rules for it, like, there is a lot of broken tech in Ultimate. Kazuya on hitbox in Ultimate... has crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Best character in the game, probably one of, right? And like there are people who do that, but nobody's stopping them.
Yeah, I guess this is it kind of goes back to, I made a video about honers versus innovators. It's Richard Garfield, the Magic the Gathering creator, kind of came up with this idea of, or kind of pointed out this concept of some gamers, they like to hone, and that's like the legacy gamers. That's like the people who will play the old games and never move on to the new games. And then there are people who like to innovate. Which are people who want the new game, who want the new mechanics and want to do new stuff. And every community kind of has different perceptions of it. Sometimes it splits the community. Sometimes you have people playing only the old stuff. Some people play only the new stuff. I play the old and new stuff. I love everything. And but then like there's like the honers feel that like anything that changes the game in a way that's kind of not recognizable, is they're more likely to be like, this is whack. And I guess like you said, like with like Ultimate, like it is a Wild West. And so those people are looking right now at this stage of the game, you're going to have more innovator type players, people who want to find new stuff that they can call their own. And yeah, you're just not going to do that with like, if someone comes up, plays Melee for the first time, not going to be like, okay, this tier list, you guys got it all wrong. And here's the actual tier list. Like Marth is actually not as good as it. No one's gonna do. No one can do that, right? But with like with Rivals 2, very new game. I mean, anything can happen, and like I think that's an excitement that innovator types like to enjoy. And like more legacy players, honer types are gonna be like, I'm gonna stick with my old game.
Yeah. I think for me, it's actually been pretty interesting. Speaking of Rivals 2, like Melee, because it's never had patches per se, it's all just been community level stuff, right? And community level changes on the game. And I'm genuinely so grateful that I play a game that doesn't have significant patches, because like I started playing Rivals on launch and I got super into it, and then patches happen and it just changes the game every time. And I hate patch culture because everybody bitches for nerfs, right? And that's like basically what I think I see happening here with the box stuff, is like people are complaining for nerfs that are just like...
That's actually fascinating to me that because the box is legal, they're asking for nerfs on the controller.
Yes.
And this kind of happened with the hitbox style controllers, with Capcom basically saying like, you have to respect these SOD/CD rules. And I think they made it so up down equals neutral. That has to be
neutral
the case.
SOD.
Yeah, and because of that, it did, I guess it kind of got nerfed, but it wasn't like, I never seen the community be like, okay, Capcom needs to do this right now. It wasn't like everyone just jumping towards this. It's always about the characters. Like this character, like Bison, does too much damage, and that needs to be nerfed and blah blah. But I've never seen like people wanting controllers get nerfed, because usually it's just like illegal or not. And then like, but then with Smash, because of the analog aspect, it's interesting because it's like, okay, fine, we'll have the box, but like we'll have the box style controllers, but like here's what you have to do, and then now they're implementing nerfs on a controller, and it's like, yeah, it's just it's funny.
The other thing on like about the nerfs is that the onus is on the players to like update their controllers and like make sure that they're legal and warrant and like within all this stuff.
Now, how do you enforce that?
First off, enforcement is just like a whole other thing. Is like, okay, like how are we going to enforce? You're putting more work on the TOs.
Yeah.
And second off, these people can't even register for tournaments half of the time. How are you going to expect them to update their controllers firmware and do all of that stuff, right?
Yeah. Like, it's like what's going to happen? Like, are we gonna have like someone win Genesis with a controller like this, and they're just gonna like it's like a doping test or something? They're gonna like look at the analyze the controller.
That they're gonna at the start of top 64 like check everybody's controller and stuff like that, and there's like a legality checker and shit like that. Like on like every match replay, you can run it through a thing, and it'll tell you if this person's using the right rules or not. And it's just like
that's crazy.
This is a lot for something that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like I'm not ultimately going to be the one who's able to make the decision for the community here. Like I know what decision I make on my tournaments and what I'm going to enforce, but the status quo that other people are starting to enforce is these nerfs. And it's just like, even if we're going to enforce them, we need to be respectful to the players who are getting hit by these nerfs and give them time to adapt and change, because doing this stuff overnight actually just screws over all these people. And we just saw that happen with Rivals 2, actually. Rivals 2, like the RCS is starting, the Rivals Championship Series, and Combo Breaker is the first in-person major event. Okay. And last week, they finally said their rules for RCS because they hadn't been put out. And their rules were neutral SOCD on your box style controllers. And I responded saying, you guys are literally like saying this the week before like the most significant first in-person event. All of these players can no longer play at your tournament because they're going to have to learn a totally different muscle memory. And there's so many people complaining. And within 4 hours, they just reverted it.
Oh, they reverted it,
Thankfully, So shout outs to their team for being responsive. But just like, you have to realize how rough that is for those people to not have 3 to 6 months or whatever to actually adapt and switch over, right?
Yeah, but this is the thing about like patch culture in general. It's there's it's a problem because like they don't want their stuff to be like messed up, but they want other people's stuff to be messed up, and whatever. I mean, that's the new meta. That's kind of the like in the arcade days for like the old school fighting games, there was no patch culture. There were patches, like there were like micro patches, like and but people didn't know about them. They'd just be like, wait a minute, that thing's a little different.
3 versions of Melee.
There's technically like a few different versions. I think like StarCraft Brood War got like patched maybe once or twice, but like but generally those games don't change very much. And so I mean we do live in a new era where people want stuff to change, but they want stuff to change because they want they want to play something different, right? This is the reason I made the Honer versus Innovator video was I noticed what was going on with I had one friend that whenever we would play games, like whether it's board games or we go out and play darts or just anything, he would just make a rule. He'd just be like, no, we can't allow that.
No,
we can't
shooting
do that.
From behind this line.
No, we can't do that. And I'm just like, well, who says? And it's like, well, it's just he's saying that, right? And I'm like, he does this a lot, right? And that's kind of what inspired me to make that video because I started researching and I found the Richard Garfield thing where he talks about honers versus innovators. I'm like, oh, okay, he's changing the rules. Patch culture is changing the rules of the game. It's people who want more innovative kind of play. They want something different. Now, that's a nice way of saying like, some people just don't want to deal with a certain problem. And figure it out. Right?
I feel like for Melee, it's almost like they don't want it to be different, right?
Yeah, well, they don't want anything to be different in that game, and it's kind of another extreme. And that's why both exist in such big numbers. You go to Genesis, those are the modern Melee game or the modern Smash game, and then they'll have Melee, and it's been like that for so long. And so. And then like you can even look at like something like Rivals 2, where they've kind of if you look, there's like ledge grabbing now, where Rivals 1 didn't, and that's like a big change. It's kind of now they've kind of gotten to a more familiar Smash stuff.
Smashified it a bit,
They Smashified it a bit, and so that kind of goes back to like now it's like if you've played Smash games and you have ledge guarding strategies, and now it's like that's all relevant again. So that's stuff that you learned, and now it's more familiar. And they kind of brought that Honer aspect. They honored the Honer, whereas but then that game has tons of innovative stuff because it's Rivals. It's a new game. It's not Smash. Like even though was it Clarion?
Yeah,
she's like a Marth S. Is still a very different character. Who does different things, and so. I mean this is kind of this is a super interesting topic that I could just go on and on about, but yeah, I guess I mean
controllers.
Controllers.
I know. Just let people play the game, man. Just let people play the game.
Yeah. I mean it's never that easy, right? People want to have the rules their own way, and everyone has to. How do you get to an agreement of like how to do?
See, that's the thing. Like Melee is unique because we're decentralized, right? Like there's no central body who makes the rules per se, right? And I think that as strong as that makes it, it also puts things into really weird situations like this, where some people want one thing and others want another, and they're never going to see eye to eye. And ultimately it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, decentralization is kind of okay. Maybe this can be this podcast is going kind of long, but these conversations are so interesting. I do want to talk about decentralization a bit because that was kind of a topic that kind of came up tangentially during Sieges, where like decentralization means that different cultures and different places kind of see the rules differently.
Yep.
And so this is where, like in the arcade days, you'll have like the arcade owner who just did not want people to use throws in Street Fighter 2 because they were cheap. To be fair, that was a lot of arcades and a lot of people didn't like that.
Really?
Yeah, because throws are frame one; they're instant. There's no throw teching. It's just whoever pressed the button first at that range, whoever it just got it instantly. Zero. It's like zero.
No
frames.
Counterplay. Yeah.
There's no counterplay to it, and so. But I mean, you have to know how to play that. You can still. There's a way to beat the person. Yeah. But then they made it so there's a little more nuance to the throw game, and now we have throw teching and all that stuff. But then like some arcades will be like, let it rock. Like just this is the game. And then like some people will make rules. Kudons, the legendary Devil Chin player, he basically said like in his arcade, there was a rule where you couldn't duck punish stuff. It's like that's Tekken. Duck punishing is Tekken.
Yeah.
Like why are you? Like it's like why is that the rule, right? You're just going to ruin this game, and obviously this is very scrubby, right? It's kind of like you can't do this because like I don't like it, right? But then there's a decentralization that happens not just with the game rules, but culturally as well. What's allowed, and this is behavior as well. Like what kind of behavior constitutes someone getting banned from a tournament?
Yep.
And now this can extend all the way to like the political realm, which I don't want to necessarily get into. But it's a thing where there's people have like, well, this is how we do it here, and you know what? Like, screw those people who do it that way. We're gonna do it this way, and then maybe only 10 people will come to their tournament, and they're happy with that, and that's what that is, right? But then like you'll have this is where culture is a very interesting thing because then you have like weird stuff that everyone's okay with. But if you kind of take a step back and you look at it, you're like, that is kind of weird. Like Canadian hockey is kind of one of those things where I went to a hockey game. When I went to Vancouver, I went later to San Francisco and then LA. But in LA, I saw the Anaheim Ducks, right? I partner Josh wanted to go and he's always been like interested in the Ducks, and I was like, okay, I'll go with you. And my first hockey game, right? And so like, and I saw a fight for the first time, like, and for me, I'm like, they're hitting each other, they're fighting each other.
It's insane that fights are allowed in hockey. When you think
fights
about
are
it.
allowed in hockey. And then I remember I played like some hockey game on the N64 where like I'm fighting. I'm like, oh, this
Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey.
Yeah, I think it was Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, and I'm playing. I'm like, oh, now I'm fighting somebody? This is kind of cool, like, right? Like, I didn't know that was from actual hockey. I didn't know that was like a real thing that happened in hockey. And so, like, I'm seeing this in person because, of course, it's kind of hyped up, like hockey games. They have fights and people beat the shit out of each other. But then, like, I also learned, like, that, like, it's it's actually not that brutal. People get more hurt in just the regular aspects of hockey, like when they get checked in a certain way, or
like if you want to hurt someone in hockey, you're not doing it through fighting them. You're doing it through like hitting them into the boards or some shit like that, right?
But like even like the way you check, if somebody's already against the wall and they get checked, apparently that's not so bad because you're already against the wall. But then if you're like close to the wall, not up against it, and you get checked there, then you're going to hit into the wall and you're getting wall splatted like Street Fighter 6, right? It's
legit,
like and so there's I didn't know about any of this stuff, but this is just completely acceptable. And you can just imagine in any like in an esport or that where there's a moment of violence where people are like hitting each other, and that's just like expected, and like it's like it seems bizarre.
It was
right?
actually really weird. Yeah, I mean, actually, there was an instance of it where that guy, I think it was Strive, and like there's this one dude who has a crazy controller, and he was up against somebody, and then after the match, the guy like mashes buttons on his opponent's controller, like he goes over, and there were people in the comments like justifying it, and I'm just like, look. Like, yes, he didn't like place hands on him or start like punching him or anything, but like there is a line that we've drawn in anything in fighting games of like you are not supposed to physically interact with your opponent in any sort of way like that. And the moment we start slipping on that line, okay, suddenly it's okay to start doing this, and then that becomes a thing. Like there's things that we just do not want to be ever allowed in these things.
But then there'll be a group of people that's what decentralization is, right? And then like an esports body comes and it's like, all right, guys, you can't do that. And then, of course, the communities are going to be like, screw off. Like, who are you to say that you don't even play these games? Like, get like, and FGC is one of those things where, like, when people see the FGC, like, trash talk, for example. Like, in some game communities, trash talk is very frowned upon. You can get fined. Like, if you say the wrong thing, make the wrong gesture.
Oh, you see League players apologizing on the internet all the time, right?
Yeah,
like, LCS will, like, enforce, like, stuff like that.
Yeah, but then, like, in Street Fighter, you have, like, Punk. Like this will just be like
you're all shit.
Like so it's like you're trash at the game. Like you just like, and you just say that, and it's like everyone's like excited now. It's like a fight in hockey or something, right? It's like it's just this thing where, and for someone to come in and be like, that's not like we can't do that anymore. It would be jarring, right? And it'd be interesting to see what 2XKO does because Riot's one of those companies like League of Legends. You follow League of Legends. It's very frowned upon to have certain kinds of trash talk or going too far. I mean, you have like players like Double Lift who will, will say some stuff, but like it's not FGC level where you really can get away with so much, right? And so like, are they gonna kind of honor that aspect? Are they gonna let the fights happen in hockey in their new hockey game they're making, or is it gonna be something where they're like, okay, we have to centralize this shit, and now for this game. Something I noticed when I was playing Alpha Lab 2 was there was kind of like a very stern message, like when I got into the lobby. I don't know if it was like after a match or when I just got in, but it was basically something along the lines of like, you have to be nice to other people, behave, or we'll ban you and we're not going to miss you. It says it went so far as to say like, and we're not going to miss you. Like, it's like. I've never seen that in a fighting game, right? So is this the beginning of something like where they're going to try to make some kind of code of conduct or some kind of
like
thing?
For me as somebody who's coming from Smash, like I love fighting games. I feel like I am part of the fighting game community, but I do come from Smash, which a lot of fighting game players don't see as the fighting game community even still, right?
Or more cousins, I guess.
We're cousins of the fighting game community. But as somebody who has like spent so many years also loving fighting games and immersed in fighting games, it's like. I don't know, like the fighting game, as you even said with the esports side, they don't want to be esports, right? And like the biggest subreddit is still like r/Kappa, right? Like growing up, like I was always on that server and like they are truly lawless. They don't care for any of this stuff, right? So how are they going to respond to people trying to clean things up and make things a little bit more polished? And you even seeing that with like the anti-esports World Cup stuff, right? Like some of it's because they're trying to have it be polished, right? And have it be within certain lines, and they just don't want to be defined.
Well, I mean, I think this space is still very much Wild West in a lot of ways, and I don't know. From what I hear, like apparently basketball had a ton of leagues and ways to like do the rules, and from the research that I've done in the Korean backdash video, I found out that dribbling was about to be banned in basketball. Like because it was cheating. It's kind of like that's the analogy to Korean backdash, where you're kind of taking advantage of like a rule that's in the game, but then you're using it to take advantage. In basketball originally, I think you were not supposed to dribble, but technically you could pass the ball to yourself. So dribbling was basically you would pass the ball, but you would miss, but then you'd recover.
Yeah.
So that's what dribbling was, right? So that's how dribbling became a thing, and so now but then they let it rock, and now no one would. Dribbling's a skill that everyone should learn when they play basketball, and no one would ever question that, right? Yeah. So. Yeah, the way that stuff unfolds, like, I don't know, is it the person with the loudest voice that wins? Is it the person with the most money? If I had like $100 billion, do you think I could just change the entire like Smash scene to like be okay with box?
That's the sad part, right? That it is the money
side. Is it really the stronger? Like,
I feel like it's like if the biggest prize pool tournament is enforcing XYZ, that's what you're going to basically have to fold on.
Okay. No, this is interesting. I want to kind of go down this rabbit hole, right? So, okay, let's say Elon Musk came down and was just like, okay, you know what, Starlink and Tesla, I'm not interested in that shit anymore. Like, I want to get into fighting games, right? I want to get into Smash,
Would
right?
hate that.
Yeah, but let's just say like he had a Tekken tournament, which like has so much money, just like $1 billion.
Yep.
It makes Fatal Fury look like chump change, right? $1 billion tournament, right? And the top prize gets like I don't know, $200 million or something, and but the rules are. It's like the rules of that one tourism organization that sponsored the Tekken event. It's like you can't have like Yoshimitsu and Gigas because they're not human, right? And every tournament, like we need to have a certain amount of Hwarang players because we want to represent Taekwondo or something, right? Just some weird rules like that. So you spend enough of that money. It's as a thought experiment. Like every year, there's $1 billion in this Tekken tournament, right? And even if Bandai Namco try to stop it, with Elon Musk is so powerful, he can just get the lawyers to bend the will of Bandai Namco, and it's just like we're still going to do this anyways. And then that's the tournament. Like every Tekken player, I mean, you just you can do TWT, or you can get like last place and make $1 million in this tournament, right? Do you think that the culture of Tekken would change to that? Do you think people would just be like, oh my god, you're playing with Yoshimitsu? That's not how you play Tekken.
Yeah, I feel like the people who are trying really hard for that $1 billion prize pool, which would probably be everybody because that's life-changing amounts of money,
of course,
would be like, why would I ever want to even practice against the Yoshimitsu? Like, this is not something I even care to play against. He's not a real character anymore. He's not allowed in the thing that matters, right?
Yeah.
Sure, you can play him for fun and casuals, but like, I don't need to grind against Yoshimitsu ever. Like, this means nothing.
But that's not coming from an agreement that Yoshimitsu is too overpowered or Yoshimitsu. That's coming from like Elon Musk just being like, he's too ugly to be in the game. Like I only like human characters, right? If you were to say that, then it would clearly be the rules would be twisted by some dude with too much money, and obviously the community, like there's not like Nii would not be like, well, I mean, he's right. He has all that money, so Yoshimitsu sucks. Like, why would I learn Yoshimitsu? I mean, he might just enter the tournament and play with life-changing money, and then maybe there'll be some people who just don't want to. They're like, you know what, this is too stupid, and I hate Elon Musk.
Casual players will always keep doing it, right?
Yeah, but then would that later evolve into like Yoshimitsu being seen as like a casual player's character? Like, would that be like a scrubby thing at that point? Like, let's say there's 10 years of the Elon Musk Tekken tournament.
Yoshimitsu just doesn't exist anymore in the competitive landscape at that point.
Yeah,
right?
It just wouldn't. People would not spend time learning that character if they're trying to win this tournament. Nobody would. And so then that's crazy. It's like, okay, so when the new Tekken game comes out, Tekken 9 comes out, do they just remove Yoshimitsu even though he's like a staple of the company? Like, I don't know. Like, it's there must be some kind of pushback, but I guess with that kind of money, there people would just be like, no, like who cares? Like, there's I don't need Yoshimitsu in Tekken, you know?
I mean, like, money and the scale of events has led us to be okay with a lot of things, right? Like, I mean, even thinking back at Melee at EVO, right? We were so okay with so much best of 3, even still, right? Like,
Yeah.
EVO's best of first to 2 or whatever, first to 2 best of 3 for so far, and like that's not acceptable at a highest level of competitive standard, at least in Smash, right? But we were okay with it because that was the big prestigious tournament with the money, so it's okay if we have to do things to their rules instead of our rules, right? And so
I think there's like a little bit of leeway there with like, of course, there's also like tournament organizer like requirements, like logistics, right? There's a lot of things at play here. But I don't know. Like, I guess if you just dial up the prize money enough, you can just you can just have like, well, the Street Fighter. Well, why would you play Ryu? Like, because some super wealthy person was like, I don't like Ryu, and no one can play Ryu. I guess that could happen, but I just don't think it would culturally shift in a way. I guess maybe over time it would, but it wouldn't be like immediate, right? At the first, it would be like, this is whack, but whatever. Like, you guys can play that game, but then there might be a split too, because like there will be people who play seriously, like there are people
that's
who
the
like
further worry about all this stuff. Like even going back to box stuff is like the divides it creates, right?
Yeah.
Okay, suddenly there's a camp that's like, okay, boxes banned, and then suddenly there's a camp of tournaments that are okay, they're all allowed. And then players start having to be like, I don't know if I want to go to this because boxes aren't allowed here.
Yeah.
Oh, Yoshimitsu's not allowed at this tournament. I'll go to that one because I hate fighting Yoshimitsu anyway, so I don't really care. Like,
yeah.
You know?
No, it's crazy. This even happens at the levels of where there's no money. I don't know if you know, but I'm a Evo Japan champion and Sailor Moon S. Here's my trophy right here. Yeah. But Sailor Moon S, right?
Mm.
This is I
have no knowledge of the game.
It's a Super Famicom game.
Okay.
But it was made by, at the time, it was made by the company now known as ArcSys.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm very.
It was like one of their first fighting games, but they were just kind of like, this is kind of where they got their start, and it's actually a very well made game. It's very busted, but it somehow kind of works out, and it's
everybody's busted enough.
Yeah, it's like everyone's busted enough to where it kind of works out, and it's pretty it's kind of Street Fighter-y, but there's like desperation moves. It was like one of the first console games with training mode in a fighting game. It's like very like there's like a lot of forward thinking. There's like guard canceling, like backdash guard canceling, and weird. These cool things, and the game's awesome. And but then even a game as small as Sailor Moon S, in terms of the community wise, there's it's not a very big community. What I learned recently was that community has a schism now, where Toronto is one of kind of like the places where that kind of in North America that game grew up. I know all those people because I played this game.
It's your scene.
Yeah, but I haven't followed it recently. But what I learned was that there's now a schism where they banned one of the characters, Uranus or whatever you want to say, right? But she's banned. Because she has like full screen dash and SPD, and it's like an infinite combo and whatever. But like when I was playing it, like nobody thought about banning that character, and that character wasn't the one that won Evo all the time. It was like I think the biggest Evo was won by a Mars player, and I beat that player in the Evo Japan.
So you basically won.
Yeah, but with Jupiter, Sailor Jupiter. And it just, but they just didn't like that character, that community, so they just banned it. But like it didn't take a billionaire to change the rule on that. It just like it was at the community level. So even at the esports highest levels, where they're like, I don't, they'll want to change
has
rules.
Its schisms in this front too, right? Like with banning characters, like we couldn't ban Meta Knight universally, we couldn't ban Bayonetta universally, and now we legally can't ban Steve because Nintendo doesn't allow you to ban characters, right? Much of the community wants Steve banned because he breaks the game, but if you want a Nintendo license, you're not allowed to ban characters. So now we can't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. This is, the powers at play kind of shape the way the game is. So it's, I don't know. Somebody has to make the rules, and there's going to be different bodies that have different rules, but I guess like ultimately there's going to be one body, organization, institution, whatever you want to call it, that just kind of holds the monopoly, whether it's through cultural capital or real capital, like money capital. And I guess that'll become the mainstream thing. Yeah, I don't know.
And that's rough. If you just have enough power, you can make things happen, even if they're not the best thing to happen. And that's the little scary thing, right?
Well, I don't. Yeah.
Especially in a scene like Melee that doesn't have many resources. So if you're somebody who has resources and you want your will enforced, you can enforce your will.
No, it's just crazy to me that like if you're playing Sailor Moon S, now there's a schism there. And it's like you're getting to this game with like tens of players in your scene, and it's like, well, I mean, are you gonna actually go to that tournament that allows that character?
Oh my
God. It's like now it's like, whoa, like there's, I don't know. That's super interesting topic, but yeah, I mean, it was good to talk to you. I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, I know we're both yappers and we talk a lot, so
definitely. But thank you for doing this podcast. So fun, and it's cool to have you here in Korea. I do want to go to Vancouver again. I do want to get on that boat. I chose arcade over the boat, and I kind of regret it. I've been to a million arcades, but I'd never been to your boat party afterwards. And after you told me what it meant to set that up and that ritual, I feel like I missed out on something there. But I will come back, and hopefully I can meet some of the same people to go to the whether it's CGIS or Battle BC. Should be cool. I really like Vancouver. I want to bring Ida along as well. I think she would love it as well. She's an outdoors person. So.
Yeah, you should. There's a lot of hikes nearby. There's a lot of really nice nature stuff to do.
Yeah.
And it's all right there. Like, it's funny because like coming from the States, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, half-hour drive, that's nothing. But you tell a Vancouver person something's a half-hour drive, you're like, a half hour? Like that's really? So far, because like driving across the city is 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. Well, you're talking to LA people who
oh my God, a half-hour drive is 10 minutes away.
It's like yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, and I guess we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gerald. I'm really grateful to be on this podcast.
All right.